So, is there anything we can learn from Roadies and their tech? No? Excellent. Glad we got that sorted out. Like and subscribe if you hate road biking. Bye! Only joking, Ollie. We love you, Roadies. And, yeah.
Thanks for having me worried there.
You may know Ollie from such GMBN videos as Can Roadies Ride Tech Trails? But outside of us making fun of him in the dirt, Ollie is one of the strongest roadies on the GCN team. He rides a 10-mile time trial in 18 minutes. That's 52 kilometers an hour. And he's taken on challenges like 1,000 kilometer bike rides and multiple Everest challenges. He's also got a PhD. So, Dr. Oliver Bridgewood, thank you so much for joining me. Oh, okay. All right, Ollie from now on. Well, joining me, although I'm actually joining you in your set to see if there's anything we can learn from you guys. But I've had a look at your bikes and I've compared them to mine, and I feel like my bikes are more of an evolution of yours. And we've got discs, we've got tubeless tyres, more gear, well, bigger cassettes usually.
Yeah.
And you guys are a bit late to the party on that one. What's that all about?
Well, yeah, you're absolutely right, and I think I'm all for embracing it, and we've had, our bikes have changed, and disc brakes and tubeless tyres, I love them.
Yeah,
and
you do.
Hands up, that's come from mountain biking.
It's like you're not 100% roadie or something.
No, I'm rubbish at riding a mountain bike, but I'm a beginner when it comes to riding a mountain bike. But yeah, no, hands up, that has come directly from mountain biking, and it has made road cycling better. Some Luddites would disagree, but they're wrong. And I just feel that there's a lot of things though that could go the other way.
Oh, okay.
That mountain bikers need to maybe embrace a bit more. I think, well, there's obviously big gains that have been made in mountain biking, but when you look at what road cycling was and where it was at in the 90s and where it's now, it's the speeds are just so much faster,
Yeah.
But by far the biggest has been to date aerodynamics, and that's been a real revolution in cycling and on the road. And I think that
we don't talk about aerodynamics much at all.
But and it's not for everyone, because not everyone's racing, not everyone's bothered. But if you are racing, or if you're just trying to beat your mates, then it's like the easiest free speed you can get.
So I always think, well, of course you need aero gains because your roadies, you're going a lot faster. But actually, I've heard that air resistance is the biggest, factor to overcome when you're doing 9 miles an hour or more. That's like 14.5 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
That's easily a doable pace in mountain biking. And for downhill racers, they can be doing up to 80 kilometers an hour on a descent. Like, they're practicing tucks, but we're not talking about aero bikes. So how has that really changed road?
Well, we first started to see aerodynamic bikes coming in the 2000s. Like the Cipullo Soloist was one of the first aero road bikes. And then when you look at a bike from 10 years ago compared to now on the road, with all the tube shapes, the integration of the cables, handlebars have got a lot narrower, wheels have got a lot more aerodynamic and deeper. And there's been so much work on that. Now we're at a point where a new bike comes out and it's like a watt faster than the previous one, like the new Pinarello or whatever. But that in the last 10 years, though, if you look at bike from 10 years ago, the difference is absolutely massive, to the point where now, you couldn't win the Tour de France if you were on a bike from 10 years ago, racing against people that are on a current one. It's huge. In aerodynamics.
That's a really good point. I don't know if certainly it wouldn't be aerodynamics that would hinder a pro rider now riding on a 20-year-old bike. When I rode it, I think it was wheel size, suspension, it's those things, wheels and suspension, I think is probably when we think about mountain biking, we think about our terrain, and I guess we think that that is the biggest thing to overcome. So we need our tires, we need our suspension, and that's where technology has been focused. And I feel like, I don't know if Aero would really, I don't know if there's been enough studies on the difference between like the resistance you get from air versus the resistance you get from rough terrain, and whether, you know, holding an aero position is more valuable than just having your suspension set up right.
But we're seeing it now on the road with more people doing mixed surface riding, and also in professional racing. There's races like Paris-Roubaix, which like mountain bikers might not be familiar with, but it's on cobbles. And what we're seeing is the huge gains that you can make from riding on the cobbles by optimizing your pressure. And so, yeah, like optimizing the suspension and the tire volume and the pressure is absolutely massive. I mean, and this is the thing for mountain bikers. For roadies, this is important, but for mountain bikers, tire pressure is even more important, because what we've seen in doing roadie rolling resistance testing is that on rough terrain, tire pressure matters more than on smooth terrain.
Right.
People might be going, "Oh, that sounds obvious." What we've seen is that when you're running the right pressure, that's more important than the tire. So you could have a crap tire at the right pressure.
Yeah.
And that's saving you more than the expensive tire that people might spend money on. But so much, it's like, and this is the thing that I think people might not realise, we're talking like 30 watts, which is blooming huge. So that is like a skin suit.
Yeah, that is huge.
You know, that is like, to someone who might not know that, you know, and I know that the mountain bikers have sort of seen skin suits a bit. Now it's starting to permeate in, but it's a lot.
Yeah, and I guess it's all about not sapping the energy from you. So obviously if your tire can deform or your suspension can give, then that's not sapping your momentum, and also not sapping like your energy. Like fatigue's a big thing. Like you guys have been playing around with more flex actually in road bikes recently, right? Yeah,
I mean, so there's more that comes in with that, but what I'm aware of is that the mentality of a roadie, and it's not all roadies, we're generalising, but the mentality of nerdy roadies like me is that I'll get my digital pressure gauge out and I'll measure my tyre pressure and I'll get it exactly right. And I dial in my pressure because I know how much difference it makes in terms of rolling resistance and grip and all the rest of it. And I feel that there's a lot more of a mountain biking mentality of it's like, oh, we'll just give it the thumb test. Yeah,
give it the old squeeze. Right. Does it feel like an orange?
Yeah, like whereas what I'm trying to say is if you actually just pay a little bit more attention to your tyre pressure, and there are online calculators and things that can do this, it's like, that's potentially a massive gain that you can get for free. Yeah. Well,
another thing we were chatting about earlier was bike fitting, because I think this is a huge thing in road that we're not really, that's not part of our culture. Now, I've had a lot of bike fits because I was racing XC, but it's been a lot because I'm a short rider and I got a lot of problems from long cranks and ill-fitting bikes that I was making do with. And that's why I went to see a bike fitter. I wasn't there for aero positions or for efficiency. Yeah. So what are we missing out on?
Well, I think you're absolutely right. It is like a lot more commonplace for roadies to go see a bike fitter to get the right size. And I think people forget that with a bike, it's not just about getting the right size, it also has implications for how the bike feels and handles. And arguably that is more important for mountain bikers than it is for roadies. True. So for example, in videos that I've done that people might have seen on GMBN, when the first one I did, I borrowed one of Rich's bikes. Yeah. And he's similar in sort of size to me, and his bike I felt just like fitted me perfectly. And then in another one I did, I rode one of Blake's bikes. Now Blake is a midget, and
he's a medium.
So
a medium midget.
I could get away with riding Blake's bike, and someone as a beginner like me to mountain biking, they might go into a shop and they might walk out with that equivalent size combo. and I can get away with riding it, especially because of the dropper post. But riding those two bikes, it was really obvious to me that Blake's bike, I found it a lot harder, and my weight was a lot more forward, especially when I was sort of going downhill or over a jump or something, and I just didn't feel right compared to when I rode Rich's bigger bike. And I just think that people need to be mindful of that, because if you're buying a mountain bike, that's going to have a big impact on your overall experience. And you know, also I think the weight distribution of the bike is, you got to view it as a system, like you and the bike combined as one entity. And if you're from one size to another, your weight is going to be positioned differently, and your weight distribution on that bike is going to be different. And if you think about it in terms of cars, you know, we always talk about race cars and the fastest cars around tracks. They aim for sort of 50-50 weight distribution. And if you think, if you're on too small a bike, your weight's going to be like further forward. And things like that.
I mean, that's an issue for handling and cornering, cornering, and just like feeling confident. It's not just about, so obviously we started talking about bike fit, and in most people's minds they're probably thinking, oh well, I don't need an efficient pedaling position. But it's just as important in downhill and enduro when we 100%. Want to balance two wheels or balance both of our suspension. I think the mountain biking industry have started thinking about lengths of bikes, and we have changed our sizing from seat tube measurements to small, medium, large, but now we're talking about S1, S2, and we're picking reaches, which is definitely getting people towards the right idea of thinking about balancing the bikes. But we're not really thinking about the back end, we're not really thinking about the stack or the other numbers, front center, that make a difference.
That's where you go from.
And that's where that sort of different reach sort of comes into play a little bit. They're trying to teach the audience or the new buyers that actually buying something that's slightly longer than what you might expect might be more stable on descent, something shorter might be more playful, and you don't necessarily fit into categories. There are sort of nuances around sizing. But I think what's really important is what you talked about before about, and it kind of works in with this theme, that it's about the rider and the bike. There isn't this notion that is the fastest XC bike in the world is silly, really, because it should be about that rider and that bike, and maybe together they're the fastest.
Something else that's like a big game changer on the road, right? Wax chains.
You know, better get time for that.
I bang on about it all the time, right?
You do, I know. There's even like a
got me
thing
wax
in the back
my waxing kit behind, all that.
Come on now, but we ride through dirt and mud and water. Like, are we going to learn anything from that?
Yeah, so I don't believe that, well, I know from that it's not going to be an advantage to use it in all situations. If you're riding through a British winter and it's wet and it's muddy all the time, a good wet lube is going to be far easier, because you're jet washing your bike after every time you go to the trail centre or whatever. Totally get that. But if you're riding in dry, dusty conditions, chain waxing is a massive gain. Not just because it makes the drivetrain more efficient and you're going to be faster, which in a race you want, but also the dirt just doesn't stick to a wax chain. So it stays faster throughout the race, but also you're not developing a grinding paste on there, which is going to wear out your components. So you might not be bothered about, you know, all-out speed and winning races. Not everyone is. But what you probably are bothered about is having more money in your wallet and like not wearing through expensive XT chains and cassettes. And wax chains will do that. But like I say, if you're riding in wet conditions, no. But for many of the viewers are in, you know, dry, dusty places. Wax is like...
Possibly. I think a nice oil wax blend in a liquid that I can just pop on my chain is pretty good. Plug for PT's premium all-weather lube there, I think, because that is actually really good lube. But guys, let us know what you think. Is there anything we can learn from Roadies? Is wax chains and aerodynamics really the next step for us? Let us know down in the comments below, and let us know what you think.
Once you've gone aero, you don't go back.